So from a legal perspective, just starting the company, there are sort of founder shares, and that's what your lawyer will go into detail, that are sort of slightly different. They have preferences potentially for acquisition. They have certain rights. Doesn't mean that future employers can't have those rights and those. I mean, you can just do anything you want. But I find it just easier to just be very clear about who is the founder and who's the early employees. It just takes away any of the mystery in the future. And frankly, it's not really what your title is. You know, I just could care less about titles. It's about how much of the company you have and why you should have that percentage. We can have two founders. And if I think I found some phenomenal person who I think is just going to walk on earth and just take this company in incredible heights, I might be willing to give my shares, some of my shares, not all of it. But I will carve out, and me and the other founders will carve out, in addition, because maybe the pool is just not large enough. Because if I give a lot of shares to this third or fourth guy that shows up, I may not have enough for the employees. So that has to come out of me. But that should be very rare. I mean, you should think about these things way in advance. But it's possible. If you have a big gap in your team that none of the founders fit, you better set some shares aside. You better take less than 100% to begin with. So you have to think about that. So it's not the name. It's how you divide the equity and the rights and things like that. So back to employees. The easiest thing for me is to set some really basic rules and just live with it. Just basically make it fair. Fairness is I go to bed completely satisfied at night, not worrying about, the option paperwork and the salaries being, printed out on the printer and being posted in the lunchroom, which is kind of the end of my talk. But I really just, every time I make a decision about who to give, what salary or what options, I have to be comfortable. It has to be fair. And there are some exceptions, or at least part of the fairness is if people join you earlier. So I mentioned about 15 people joined me before I had raised $1. Okay, they end up and some of them chose or could, they were available at the time of funding. They joined the company, so they got extra shares because they believed in the idea. They believed in us. They worked with for no money for quite some time, so they got extra shares. People who join you in Series A, doing the same exact job of somebody joining in Series B, should get more shares because that person is one of the people who got you from Series A to Series B. If you didn't, you should fire him or her, right? But if they did, and if they're sticking around, then that means they were part of the success team, and they should be compensated by having a larger percentage of the company than people who come later. People who do more, have more responsibility, naturally will get more. So what I've done with every single employee that is, or potential candidate, I've offered them to take more shares, a little bit more, for a little bit less cash. I should have really used that as an interview technique. And anybody who said they don't want to take more equity, I should say, thank you so much. We'll see you later. Because the people who actually ended up doing that trade, getting a little bit, and I never made it so hard that they couldn't pay their mortgage or couldn't drive their car, put gas in it. So, I would lower it by $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on the salary for, more shares. It's basically, it tells me who's a startup person and who is not. Now, as you go down in the organization, it gets harder because it's truly very expensive to live in the Bay Area. And, some of these folks just cannot take less than, $90,000, $100,000 or whatever. But as you go up, there is a cushion there. And it's been the greatest post-indicator to me to see the people who took the deal were my best employees. They were the best performers because I think they thought of the company as if they were founders in their mind. They put in the time, they did the effort. So that was kind of interesting. And I think, Carl alluded to this, but at every round, VCs want you to pre-allocate the option pool because otherwise they're going to get diluted with you, and they don't like that. So you have to pre-allocate an option pool for the employees you're going to hire between round 1 and 2, or A and B, every time. And the best way to get through this, which everybody agrees, investors agree, is to plan. Plan out, make a chart, and say, I'm going to hire these people in Series A until I need more money. And, I'm going to give these numbers of shares to each position. I didn't do the whole math on this slide, but you can multiply, I need 5 engineers. I'm going to give them this much. I need, 7 managers or whatever. You just add it up. And that's your pool. So I didn't want to put percentages. I don't want to bias you as to how much you should give. There's lots of literature on that. It really depends on what are they going to do for you, and how important are they for the future, and then you can decide percentages. But you can look at this chart if you really want to figure it out. From my perspective, assume 7 to 10 million authorized shares, and you just come up with these numbers. But when you do this, you will allocate the employee pool. Back to our charts before, so that's the pool in which you're hiring. You got your founder pool, the rest are investors. So that's how it comes together.
Question.
Sure.
What did this table here mean, Series B?
Oh, I was just showing here that same person, if they were hired around later, would get less shares, but not like half the shares, because you hopefully didn't get. This assumes you did not get diluted by half. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here, but assuming your company is getting more and more valuable, you want the person who joined you earlier for the same position to own more of the company than the person who comes later to the party. Like those who are joining Facebook now should not get the same as those who were earlier.
Particularly scaled to each other.
No, I did not calculate any of this stuff, but yes. So just to summarize, I think the single most thing as you're thinking about equity, this includes your co-founders, and how you divide it among yourselves, how you divide it with your employees, your consultants, your friends, your family, all that stuff. You've got to keep it fair. So nobody can say, like, how come he got more than me? You should be able to answer that question. He came before, he has more responsibility, she moved the earth, whatever it is, you should be able to say it. And I can't say this enough, but don't get hung up on equity and percentages and fundraising even, frankly. Because if you don't have a business, no one's going to fund you, no one's going to join you, and it doesn't matter how you split the pie. But if you focus completely on your business, build just an awesome business, a right product for the right market, you will attract founders if you're looking for them, you'll attract employees, and you will definitely attract investors if that's what you want. So by keeping your eye on the ball is not equity, it's not funding, it is your business. And that's about it for me.
Great. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.